Just vote. Let every member of Congress vote their conscience, and they can determine whether or not they want to shut the government down.
We're back. That was a confident President Obama today at headquarters in Washington. As we enter week 2 of the government shutdown, we're watching an emboldened President Obama. The president stuck to his guns and refused to yield any wiggle room to the Republicans over the Affordable Care Act. And one reason the president's so confident, Democrats in Congress are united behind him right now. On Saturday, the House Democratic leadership released a letter with 195 members of their caucus who say they will support a clean, continuing resolution to reopen the government. 2 of those members of the Democratic caucus join me now. Representative Jim Moran, Democrat from Virginia, and Representative Jim McDermott, a Democrat from Washington State. Congressman Moran, do you think if Boehner, the Speaker of the House, and he has the power to do it, calls up a vote on passing a clean CR, continuing resolution, gets the government back to work tonight, would it pass?
Absolutely. I've talked to 2 or 3 dozen Republicans who have indicated that they would vote for it. I'm confident that it would vote pretty decisively if the Speaker would just let a clean continuing resolution come to the floor of the House. President Obama is right on this. Unfortunately, Speaker Boehner has reversed himself. I don't know why. Probably out of pressure, but he's incorrect when he said Sunday that it wouldn't pass. It would pass. There's no question about it in my mind.
Mr. McDermott, what is this about? We all watch this guy. I've said this before. He reminds me of a Jack Lemmon character in his later career, kind of a nervous business guy who's done something wrong and his business is in shambles and he just looks like hell. Why does he worry about, if it's only 30 or 40 members in his caucus who are the wild guys out there, why does he worry so much about them? Why doesn't he just say, I'm going with majority. I can get a majority of my caucus. I don't need all the crazies. Why does he do it that way?
Well, let's play it out for a second. Suppose he called for a clean vote. He put it out there, 30 Republicans to 195 Democrats went for it. It passed. He's afraid that the next action in his caucus will be to remove him from Speaker. Now, think about it. Here's a guy that is now a hero for the American people. He's put our country back together, and it's working. The government is working. And their next act is going to cut off his head as Speaker? No, that's not going to happen. He needs to have the nerve and the guts to stand up to those 30 guys or 40 or whatever it is and say, look, you won't help me. I'm going next door and I'm getting the votes because I care about my country. That's what John Boehner has to do. If he did that, he'd have nothing to worry about.
Well, let me ask you, Jim Moran, Congressman, what is it? Who's on his lifeline? Who's his chief of staff? Who does he trust? Is it Cantor from your state? McCarthy from California? Who is in an inner circle that's spooking him? Somebody must be saying, you better be careful. We get the sense that every time he came back from the White House with Obama, he'd have a deal hatched out. Next, he'd hear from his chief of staff. Then he'd hear from Cantor. And all of a sudden, he loses his guts again. Who's scaring him? Who's telling him everything you guys are saying is wrong?
Chris, I don't think it's in his office or even within his caucus. I think it's outside money and outside media. It's Limbaugh's of the world, Fox News, it's the Koch brothers, it's all those 3 dozen organizations that were talked about on the front page of the New York Times yesterday. I think it's the money and it's the media. And so I think he feels constrained within very tight parameters of what they instruct him to do.
Mr. McDermott, are you and your other colleagues, almost 100 of them Democrats, are you confident that the president's got the winning hand here? And at what point do you think it will get hot for the Democrats as well as the Republicans as you approach 10 days from now, the shutdown, not the shutdown, but the debt default?
I think we do, because I think the president is right. You can't bargain the debt limit increase. You could say, well, let's raise it a little bit or for a week or 2. That's going to throw the world economy into chaos. Yeah. And the president cannot do that. I don't think he'll do it. And I think that if he sticks to his guns, ultimately the Wall Street boys are going to come down and say, look, John, you want to play golf with us? Then you better take that out on the floor and get it clean, because we're not going to play with you anymore.
This 2-month, Chuck Todd was talking about it from the White House. The press is hearing about a 2-month proposal. What would that? I don't think anything would be accomplished in 2 months that couldn't be accomplished right now. Your thoughts again, Mr. McDermott?
I think that would be a mistake to go for a short one. You ought to raise it so that you can get through the next 6 months or next year. We are going to raise the debt limit. We've raised it 111 times since Clinton was president of the United States, and we're going to raise it again and again and again, and you might as well just admit it and do it. It's silly and very, very bad for the country not to go ahead and do it.
Mr. Moran, you represent the district right across the Potomac from the White House. You walk with every day when you walk around Old Town Alexandria, you bump into people who work for the federal government who are off right now. What is the mood there in terms of this shutdown?
They're distraught, Chris. These are people who want to be working. Now, fortunately, we were able to get our bill passed on Saturday that will pay them. I think that makes an even more compelling case that if we're going to pay them, they ought to be working, and they want to be working for their pay. But it's also contractors. There are even more contractors than federal employees that are out of work. This is going to take a big bite out of our economy, probably billions of dollars, but it will be all over the country. And, the American people, the business community, they need some stability. They need some confidence regained in their government that we know what we're doing. So this funding for a very short period of time, let alone lifting the debt ceiling for a very short period of time, I completely agree with my friend Jim McDermott. That doesn't work. We've got to resolve this and resolve it for some extended period of time.
I am so glad to hear you gentlemen say that. That seems to be the strong, smart position. Thank you, U.S. Congressman Jim Moran of Virginia, U.S. Congressman Jim McDermott of Washington, the state of Washington. And we'll be right back after this.